Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be working on the IS300 today. So when I first got this car, I realized my rear tires were wearing out much faster than usual. And I realized I had a toe issue on one side. The frame was actually bent and the bolt and the offset nut wasn't holding correctly. So my toe is way off. So in today's video, we're going to be installing these new Megan control arms right here. These are the upper toe arms that are adjustable from this thing. In order to use this, you actually have to install some block-off plates. So in today's video, we'll go ahead and install this block-off plates where the old bolt and offset thing is. So stay tuned. So right here we got the Megan upper control arms, the toe arms that we're going to be replacing today. This is a direct replacement for the factory toe arms on here. It does come with these little hose clamp type things. This actually holds the ABS line. The factory one has a mount like this welded into it. In order to correctly mount that line onto here, you have to use this thing, which looks kind of ugly compared to the rest of it. But overall, this thing looks pretty good. It comes with a new ball joint on this end, and then this end goes through with the bushing and everything there, and then this thing actually goes in and out based on the way you turn this, so you can adjust your toe. So in order to install this on the IS300 or basically any car where you replace this, you actually got to replace the factory adjustment. So on the factory adjustment, you basically turn a bolt and it adjusts, and this thing slides back and forth on there, and then this side of it goes onto the subframe and it moves it in and out, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add these block off so we no longer have that adjustment on the subframe. And even on mine, I explained earlier, the subframe sort of bent, so it can't really adjust well anymore or all the way, so you need this anyways. And then once you do that, then all your adjustment goes right here. But I ordered these arms off of eBay on one of the sellers. These things were out of stock for the longest time. It took me a while to get them. Finally, I found some that were in stock and I ordered them. These I got from Parts Shop Max. It's an online store that sells a lot of suspension parts, mostly like JDM stuff, but they do sell a lot of good stuff. I went ahead and just ordered these. I think they were like 50 bucks plus shipping. These, I forgot how much I paid for them. I'm thinking around $80 or $90, but I'll post links to both of these in the description. So before we start on this project, I'm gonna go ahead and do a string alignment just to make sure I get all my settings so I don't really mess anything up. The front of my car is pretty much aligned. There's really no issues with tire wear or anything with the wheel, so I'm assuming that thing's perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some PVC piping and do a string method today to go ahead and try to do this alignment, or at least get all the settings and the readings right. We're going to go ahead and notch some holes in there, cut this PVC pipe down so it fits straight across the car, and then once we do that, we'll use the jack stands to hold it up. We'll use the strings to line everything up and get all our measurements. So I learned this method off of FCP Euro's YouTube channel. They go through a much more in-depth process on how to do this. I'm gonna go ahead and try to explain as much as I can throughout this video, but a lot of it's gonna be time lapse. I'll show you the major parts of it. If you guys wanna go through the actual video from FCP Euro, you go ahead and check that out. I'll have a link down in the description, but they go through much more detail. We're gonna go ahead and just do it time lapse for the most part. But the main concept that we wanna do is we wanna basically cut this thing so it's a little bit wider than our track width of the car. I'm gonna go ahead and make this a little bit wider just because I might use it on the van and other vehicles too, so I want to be able to have the same pipes to do that. And once we cut it long enough so we can actually set it on top of here, you're gonna go ahead and notch parallel lines on both ends of this where you can run a string. You wanna make sure your pipe is exact same where all those notches are. So we're gonna basically cut one slit on one side, put a saw blade or a ruler in between there to hold it, and then go ahead and notch the other sides. That way it's perfectly parallel on both sides. Once we do that, we could run the string on either end, have some weights on either side of the string, and then we'll get a nice taut line down the middle. Once we do that, we'll measure the distance between the wheel and the string and match it on both sides on the front and the rear. Once we figure out that it's perfectly squared up on both sides, then we could take our measurements and then do our calculations. All right, we ended up getting the string all set up, pretty much square on both sides. So to square it up, what you want to do is once you have everything set up, you want to go ahead and just measure this and see the distance between the center of the wheel to the line. So you want to make sure both sides, front and rear, are equal. So this one's like at 10.5 centimeters right here, almost 10.25 or 3/4. So we go to the other side and we should get the same measurement. So you just want to adjust either side and all around just to meet that, right? So that's about the same right there, about 10.5, a little over 10. So that's good on this side for the squareness. So back in the rear, you want to go ahead and do the same thing, and you want to make sure you do it all the way around. So this thing right now, a little over 13.25, almost 13.5. You want to check the other side, make sure that's the same exact number or close to that number, so we can make sure it's square. You want to go there, so it's right there. So it's a little bit right there, perfect, I guess, for squareness. Once you get that, you can get all your settings and all your readings. So the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and take the measurement, the front of the wheel and the back of the wheel, and then across. So what I'm going to do across, I'm going to go ahead and put on my quick trick toe that I had a video for before. It basically goes on the wheel, and I'm gonna measure the distance between the front and the rear just to get those measurements in so I can record all that before I change out the arms. All right, I went ahead and marked down all my settings. The center number here is the distance from the string to the center of the wheel. I just noted them all just in case I needed it later. Once I do the install, I gotta set this thing back up and get all these things lined up again. I noticed the front driver's side, I'm 3 millimeters toe in. Passenger side, I'm 6 millimeters toed in based on my string alignment. On the rear, I've got 4 millimeters toed in on the passenger side, which is good. The problem wheel, which is the one that's wearing out pretty badly, I've got 5 millimeters toe out. So this is an obvious right there just from the string measurement that we're bad there, just because I'm wearing the hell out of my inner tire on that one. So we want to make sure we get these all towed in. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this setup down, kind of jack everything up, go underneath, and actually I'm going to measure using my quick trick first. All right, you saw I lifted the car up. I got them on these makeshift 2x4 blocks I created. If you guys don't have a lift at home, this thing makes it so much easier to work under the car. All you do is make it out of 2x4s. It's pretty easy. But what I did was I put this quick trick alignment tool on there. I've used this before in the past to show you guys how to do an alignment. But what I'm going to do is just take the measurements now just for reference. So that way after we put the arms on, we can adjust it from here. So I set this thing up. I went ahead and took the measurements and noted them down. The funny thing is they both are 185 centimeters front and rear. So that explains this thing, they're both going the same direction. That explains why the total toe right there is 0. They should be going in, toe in on both sides, like here, 4 millimeters and 4 millimeters over here. So we're way off. So that's one way we're gonna measure this. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna actually change out one of the ones, this side right here, where I know the correct settings are in there already. And then I'm gonna measure it again to make sure I get this exact same number. And then when we go ahead and put the other side, I'll put it back on and adjust it so I can get basically a 10 millimeter offset for now. So after studying the measurements again, I realized this side right here on the front driver's side is actually 3 millimeters toed out, just because you can see the number on the back is higher than the number on the front. So that means the front edge of the wheel is shorter to the string, which means it's towing out. So I need to actually adjust my front alignment to better go straight and get those numbers, basically 188 to 188 or 187, somewhere between there. There's about 9 millimeters off right now. So we're sitting under here and you can see that tire wear from the toe on this side. That toe out really kills the inside of your tire over here. On this side, you can see the wear is a little bit more even though the inside is worn. The middle is worn pretty evenly too. The outside, of course, is not that worn, and that's mostly due to camber and less toe, but also there was a little bit of toe on this side. But what we're gonna be replacing is right here. So So this is the toe arms right here. So we're gonna have to take off the wheel to easily access that. To get there, here's those eccentric or whatever it is, bolts right there that kind of offset to adjust your toe. So we're gonna go ahead and remove those and put in those block off plates. On this side was the side I was talking about that was damaged. So this edge right here, the subframe, over time through various alignments and all that, this thing gets damaged and then it doesn't hold anymore. When you turn this offset bolt, it doesn't move anymore, and then you can't get your toe correct. We got the wheel off, so we're back here, so we're gonna have to go ahead and get that right here, which I believe is a 19 or a 17 right here. We're gonna have to get that off. We're gonna use a puller like we did with the front steering axles. It's a special tool, but it makes it so much easier to pull this thing out. I'll show you guys once we get to that part. And then we have back here where we have to take that toe adjustment bolt off. On the back side, it looks like a 19, so you wanna hold the 19, and you wanna unscrew the front off, and you wanna get that out. So once we loosen that bolt, this is a tool we're gonna use right here. If you guys need these exact same tools, check out the links down in the description. This is like a $15 or $20 tool from Amazon, but I've used it so many times. It just, all you do is basically just go up to here, slide it right into there, and then you just turn it until it pops the bolt out of there, because that thing is going to be stuck on there for sure. So you want to make sure you have a tool to pop it off and not a big ass hammer like most people do, because with a big ass hammer you could damage stuff. We're in here, so we'll go ahead and take apart the brake line first. So this is just a 10mm. It's a pretty tight spot, so you got to use a gear wrench or a ratchet to get it. Let's take that out. Just leave the 10mm with the bracket here. Next thing we're going to do is going to shoot off the 17mm ball joint on the end here. All right, we got the arm out. So next thing you gotta fit in is you gotta fit in these new cams, or these new lock cams that we have here. So what they do is they actually have a notch on the back of them that's supposed to fit right into that notch there. And the way I think it goes upside down like this with the round part on the bottom and the flat on top. And then you wanna have the hole on the inside, because right now when I'm looking at the other arm, as I take it out, I have to actually extend it to get it where the factory is. And when you close it up, it's the equivalent of going this thing to the opposite side here to make it shorter. So we want to have it out as long as possible right now, so that way we can make it shorter if anything, and longer also, because the arm still can go out more. But the one thing I see is this notch right here is actually a little bit bigger than this hole, just because over time this thing gets smashed down. So I need to just take a file and file the hole a little bigger so the notch fits right here. All right, we got this thing to fit with the thing. So I just shaved it down just enough to get this thing to snap in. So it's actually holding. And then on the back side, I did the same. It's holding back there. So we're gonna go ahead and just snap it in and go ahead and put the arm on with the screws or the bolts that it came with, and then start putting this side back together. So here you can see the arm. What I did was I put the bolt right there back on, the factory bolt, and slid it right into the Megan arm. And then I actually had to open it up, so I left it here like this, and I turned this thing whichever direction it is to make this thing bigger on the edge there. So you want to see the threads right there and the threads on that side to make it longer. So it still has adjustability to go longer or shorter depending on the way you need to go. And then you just adjust it right here in the middle with this adjustment. So we'll go ahead and just lock it down right now temporarily like this, and we'll go ahead and try to install it from this position right here, and then we'll adjust it as we need to. All the washers and the bolts that it came with. So you want to just slip it in there. Crap, all my things are falling down. So we want to just get it in here first. All right, we got everything put back together. Once you get it all back in and lined up, make sure you torque this one and torque that new bolt to 36 foot-pounds. That's all it really needs to be tight. Just tighten that down with the torque wrench and we should be good. These new nuts that come with this Megan one, and then those block off plates, they actually have a nylon stopper in them. They really won't come out on you just because of the nylon, but you'll want to make sure you torque it down to that 36 foot-pounds. So I set up the quick trick again, and on this side we are at 184.6 I think, and then back here we're on 185.4. So I actually have to move the arm this way to tow it out more to get it where I need to get it. So we're under here now. So in order for us to make this thing tow out more, I have to make the actual arm longer. So I'll have to get a wrench right now and turn that thing to get it out longer. Once I do that, I'll take measurements every time I turn it a couple of turns just to make sure we're hitting the right numbers. All right, for us to get it longer, we need to turn it outwards. So you could turn it by hand right now if you can. You turn it upwards, or we get a wrench in there. I put a piece of tape there just so I won't damage my new finish on here, but you know, if you guys don't really care, you could probably just get something in there. Right now it's a 21 millimeter to turn that thing, and I have the tape on there with this 21, so it's kind of tight. Plus I don't have much room to turn, so it'll be really slow. But again, you probably don't need to turn it that much to move it, maybe like a half a turn. But so we'll go ahead and measure it to see what it's at. So that little bit of turn got us closer to 85 centimeters, 185 over there. And then also on this side, it went back a little bit to like 85.1.2. So we'll just turn it a little bit more just to get it back to where it needs to be. Go out and measure it now. All right, so we got it closer to 85 now. This one's 185 like 0.9 or 184.9, just a little bit below. This one is right at 185 on this side. The best way to do it when you're up here is to actually pull both of them at the same time and look at the numbers. That way you're putting even force. You're actually making the tape measures taut, so that way you're getting an accurate reading. All right, before we set the alignment, we want to go ahead and see what we had before. So we remember the whole car was towing this direction, with this being tow in and this being tow out with 4 and 5 millimeters. Even though across we got almost the exact number at 185. So for us to straighten the car out, I need to actually tow this one back 2 millimeters. What happens when I had to go back 2 millimeters? This 94 and that 90 right there equal 92 and 92. Same with over here. I'm eventually, when I put the arm on this side, I'm gonna have to go in 2.5, or actually I'm gonna have to go, yeah, I'm gonna have to go in 2.5 to match this. So this will become 93.5 and 93.5 there. But for now, with the quick trick that I have set up over there, the quick trick just measuring across for the toe, I'm going to increase the front of the wheel to 85.2 and then the back to 84.8 to theoretically get this 2 millimeters. So after making that final adjustment, I think I got it right. So this side is about 185.2, and then on this side we're at 184.8, almost 185. So that's correct right there as far as the toe goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and lock this down, and then we'll go ahead and install the other side and get those measurements in there. All right, once we got everything pretty good, we'll go ahead and tighten down the lock nuts on either side. So this thing, I believe, is a 21 millimeter because I'm using the same wrench. So you just gonna, one of the nuts is a reverse thread, so you just gotta know which way you're turning.
The inside one's a little bit tight. Can't really get to it. But we'll just so yeah, we gotta turn that way. So we'll go ahead and tighten it down. So I was able to open that hole up on this side using a drill mold instead of a file just to make it faster. So once you do that, you want to make sure the stopping plate or this lock-off plate fits in there perfectly, and this one looks like it fits in snugly, isn't sliding up and down, so that's good on the inside. And then the outside looks like it's doing about the same too. On here, you just make sure on the front side it fits in snugly and doesn't slide up and down. Horizontally it should be fine, just because once you tighten it down it'll get right into that groove and everything will be good. But pretty much this is ready to go over here. Alright, we got this side all plugged up and tightened down, torqued to 36 foot-pounds. So everything looks good over here. Same with this side, everything looks good over there. So I'm gonna go ahead, put the wheel back on, measure the toe on here to see if we're close to what we need to be. Make any adjustments if I need to kind of square it up on the back side. This side's way too towed in right now, as you can see right here. When we did the measurement, we're like 2 centimeters off. That's like 20 millimeters. So I might have to move this arms really far over to get it straight. On the front side right now, we're at about 182.5. Where the back side, we're like at 187 centimeters. So that's like 2 centimeters or 20 millimeters too far. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and lift it up a little bit and pull it over more. Alright, I was able to finally adjust it. So I'm about 185 centimeters in the back. And on the front here, I'm about 184.9. So I've got about 1 millimeter of toe in, which is perfect for this car. So this pretty much does the rear alignment on here. As far as I can tell, we're gonna have to go ahead and set up the string alignment again and take all the measurements and see where we're at with the string measurement. But I'm gonna just tighten everything back here down. Hopefully this is straight and square back here. Alright, so now that we got the rear kind of straightened out, I need to go ahead and adjust the front so I can zero out the toe. And after that, we can put this back on the ground and take a 4-wheel measurement to see where everything's at. So first thing I'm going to do is the driver's side right here. So you can see I'm towed out by 3 millimeters. So I actually have to bring this in or bring the tie rod out 1.5 millimeters to zero this out. So we'll go ahead and adjust this and try to get this number closer to 188. So for this side, we want to get it a little bit of toe in just because we're lowered. So the limit on the IS300 is like a 0.15 degrees toe in. That's their inner limit. 0 is your ideal spot to get to, and then out is like 0.05. They don't want you to toe out. Toe in is probably better just because of the flex. So what we want to do is get this, right now we're about 3 millimeters out as far as total toe on here on this side. So if we go in that 1.5, that puts us right about 0. So really we need to go less than that to get it on the toe in. So I'll adjust that slightly under the car just to get it there. So since the IS300 has a tie rod on the inside here, what we want to do is basically extend it out like 1 millimeter, 1.5 millimeters, just to get this thing straight again compared to that string alignment number that I had before. So to make sure that our steering wheel is straight, I bought this $25 tool here from Amazon. It basically holds the wheel. You could probably hold the wheel with other rigged ways using ratchet straps and things like that, but I wanted to keep it easy and just use this thing since it was only $25 and it's useful. So there's how it works. Basically, once you set the wheel straight, put that down, push it as far as you can in your seat, and then lock it with the knob on top. So right here we're under the car. For the steering rod, this is what you would adjust here to adjust the toe on here. So you can see last time I did this, I actually marked my position with that silver line that's still here. I did this video already on using that quick trick, so if you want to check out more detail on that, you check out that old video. But for this one, I'm just going to adjust it and check the numbers without really showing you guys much more detail. Just check out my other video if you want to see how I did it last time. So while I was under here, I started looking at the camber adjustment bolt, which on the IS300 is right here on the inner lower control arm. There's an eccentric bolt right here that you could turn, so it looks like it's not all the way in for the camber correction on this side, where on the driver's side it is all the way in. You can see right there it's all the way in. So and then I went ahead and measured the camber on both the driver's and the passenger side using that digital magnet level I had, and I'm about -1 degree more of negative camber on this side, which explains why this side is wearing a little bit more inner tire wear versus this side, which is still pretty good on the inner. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen this thing and adjust it. I think this thing is like a 21 or 22 millimeter bolt right here, and there's a nut on the back side that you have to loosen to turn this thing. So the front nut here is actually a 19, and then the one back here, which is attached to that washer, that little offset washer, is a 22 millimeter. So we have to loosen this side first. Once you loosen this side, then you could turn it on the back side here and get it. It's kind of tight. I don't even think I can get a ratchet on this side, which is kind of sucks because right now I don't have a 22 millimeter wrench like this, so I might have to use a crescent wrench. So we were able to break it loose. You can see we slid that thing over. Once you break it pretty loose, just the pressure from the wheel, because I have it actually lifted up, is gonna push the camber in. You can turn that pretty easily with a crescent wrench, or if you have a 22 millimeter wrench, it'll be easiest. So right now it's furthest in on the elongated hole, and as far as that bolt goes, so we go ahead and tighten it. Breaking this thing loose was a big pain in the ass. The easiest way is to actually put this 19 and then add a second longer wrench onto there, like, you know, tucking it through that hole, and then kind of getting some leverage and popping it open. Once you pop it open, it comes off pretty easily, but it's that initial break that's a pain in the ass. All right, after setting the camber, I'm putting that on there, so it looks like I'm at about -1.2, 1.0, much better than before. I think before I was like at -1.6 or 1.8 or something like that. But on the driver's side, the camber is almost at 0 at 90 degrees right there, which is perfectly straight. So one of the things you want to do if you have to adjust camber is do that first and then do toe. So after we did that, the rear toe right now on the measurement is almost 190. It's like 189.5 over here, and then the front also shifted forward, so this side is only like 184.5, so we're like 5 millimeters off. So I'm about to jack it up and then turn that toe arm out again to get some more toe out, because right now it's really toed in too much now. All right, finally got it back to within spec. So back here I'm at 187 on the dot. Up here I'm at 186.5, which is about 5 millimeters difference between the toe on the front and the back, which means this thing is toed in with my calculations, which is toed in about 0.15 degrees, which is within the spec for toe in. Also, once we got the toe corrected and everything, the camber actually kind of adjusted a little bit, so now we're at like 0.7 negative camber on this side. Other side is still at basically 0, so we're good on camber as far as inner tire wear now. All right, I was able to re-square everything back up and get this line all set up like we had it before. I went ahead and checked all the measurements. So starting on the back, here's my new numbers right here. So I went to 91 and 92. And then over here, 91 and 92 right here on the new numbers. These were the old numbers under the lines. You can see we moved them in and we're pretty much perfect and square on the back. On the front passenger side, we went from 82 to 81 and 76 to 77 right there, but we did correct all the camber on that side. And then on here, we were at 76 and 79. I went to about 81 and 79 right now with the new adjustments. These two numbers before, we were like 108, 106. I got it both around 107, 108 this time. So everything's pretty much even there. So these numbers all are pretty good. So we just need to road test this now and see if everything is still straight as far as the wheel goes. All right, we're road testing right now, and this thing is perfect. Goes straight with my hands off the wheel. Feels much tighter now, the steering on the front, now that the toe is perfectly centered and in line. Before I was having one side toe in, one side toe out, but yeah, this is perfect now. The whole car feels a lot tighter now as far as responsiveness. Hey guys, as you can see, it took me several days to do this video, but we got everything installed, lined up, and squared up as far as the alignment goes. And just the string alignment overall is pretty simple if you can be patient and have the time to actually make all the measurements, jack it up, put it down, measure it again back and forth, especially even using that quick trick stuff. That quick trick alignment tool is pretty expensive. Just the toe adjustment that I got there was already like almost $200. If you want like the full kit, it's like almost $500 or $600 that has all the other stuff, which has a caster, the camber, and all those other measurements. For us on these Lexus and Toyota vehicles, really the only thing you could adjust is toe and camber. As far as camber goes, I just ordered that $10 magnetic tool that sticks to the rotor. A lot of you guys probably don't have that kind of rotor surface or even a wheel that I can stick to, so you got to find a different way to do that. A lot of people just put a straight edge on the wheel and then they measure it. Anyways, if you guys found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel to stay on top of all my different DIY videos, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on bell notifications to get notified every time I upload a video. For all these different projects, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.